That old black magic has me in its spell.
We may not know your name, but we already know one pretty private thing about you. You have been involved in a tempestuous relationship, pursuing a mad romance with fossil fuels. Oh, the wild, wonderful times you've had together, traveling the world in comfort, enjoying exotic cuisine, living like modern royalty. But now, that old black magic is starting to lose its luster. Money is driving you apart. Quarrels are flaring. And it's starting to get a little too hot in the kitchen. Let's face it, you need help. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. In fact, it's everyone's responsibility. We all fall into ruts. Climbing out of them just takes a little elbow grease, and you can't do it alone. We need to talk.
Black magic.
Before you fell in love with fossil fuels, you used to be so self-reliant. You did everything on your own 2 feet, or with a little help from your 4-footed friends. Even so, it took more than a month to get from St. Louis to Denver. Haute cuisine referred to actual oats. And this was the reigning idea of outdoor recreation. What a relief it was to find someone reliable, someone who could really lend you some muscle. Oil, coal, and gas, they were so strong, so generous. Who could blame you for falling head over heels? You threw caution to the wind. You asked your partner to satisfy your every need. And, for a while at least, he lit up your world.
I'm a girl who happens to think that a brand new car is better than me.
When were two people ever so sure they were just born to live with each other? We can't fail to find happiness together in this wonderful world of today and tomorrow.
Some of the miracles of petroleum are familiar to us all. It gave us mastery over the air. It meant mass transportation for the world. It changed the face of continents. It quickened the very pulse of civilization. And it provided man with an ease of living. Wow, it seemed so perfect. Turn, stumble, flounder, miss your step, and he was there to catch you and hold you up. You had found your match.
It's Destination Unlimited.
Chances are your day starts with oil.
The seat cushions at your breakfast table may be artificial leather, made from petroleum derivatives. And because ammonia fertilizer was injected into the water that irrigated the grove, the oranges that provide your morning glass of juice are larger, more delicious.
And it would surprise you to know the list of the petroleum products that surround your living room.
They're used in fabrics for the drapes, in paint on the walls, in gloss on the floors. Petroleum really gets around. It does its work in every room.
Well, no one had to nag him into helping around the house. Now let's look outside the home. There's oil in every direction.
Look up the street. Asphalt, which paves nearly 500,000 miles of thoroughfares in the United States. Look down. Artificial leather shoes made with the help of petroleum. And when you get into your car, you're literally surrounded by oil. The plastic on the dashboard. The windshield is made shatterproof with transparent resin that serves as a binder. The synthetic rubber mat on the floorboard.
Well, your new honey sure could deliver. And you not only welcomed it, you embraced it.
Electricity, gas, mechanical servants, freedom from drudgery.
In the whirlwind of romance, we make a lot of promises to each other. to stay together for better or for worse, in sickness or in health, in spin cycle or in permanent press, till death do us part. But sometimes we need to re-examine those vows. You actually can have too much of a good thing.
When you marry for love, Ken, you're always happy.
So seductive.
And we'll never disagree about anything at all.
Never.
And promise you won't take me for granted.
I promise.
No point in denying it. Cheap, abundant energy changed your life. It was all you'd waited for, a partner who let you live up to your full potential. And it was a change you were eager, even desperate to make. It was so wild and seductive, you were simply swept away. It was too good to be true, but you simply refused to see the warning signs.
Are you sure you'll always be in love like you are now?
What do you mean? Liz, how can you say such a thing?
Tonight I want to have an unpleasant talk with you about a problem that's unprecedented in our history. The oil and natural gas that we rely on for 75% of our energy are simply running out. It's a problem that we will not be able to solve in the next few years, and it's likely to get progressively worse through the rest of this century.
But that was the last thing you wanted to hear, and so you turned to anything that would drown out what you couldn't bear to face. And sometimes what you heard sounded like music to your ears. You dug deeper, searched wider, found more. You kissed your troubles goodbye, or so you thought. You went on as though nothing was wrong, drowning your sorrows in hope, believing that the problem would go away if you just kept following the same course. This behavior sapped your resources as you put a lot of energy into avoiding the call to change. But eventually, you couldn't ignore the warning signs.
Each is a dream in the other's mind. He's willing to promise the world, but he is probably unable to give even himself. That's why they are doomed to fail.
Something is wrong and it needs fixing. What do people do when they face trouble? Ask for advice. And goodness knows there's plenty of it out there. Everyone has an opinion.
Industrial civilization has caused irreparable damage.
Not only is it the 11th hour, it's 11:59.
Forget big oil. We don't have enough oil to even worry about it anymore. Not here in North America, not even in the world. It's that we have to find alternative forms of energy.
This is the biggest crisis in the history of this country.
Is it possible that we should prepare against other threats besides terrorists?
We all remember the energy crisis of the 1970s when people complained that Americans just used too much energy. And therein lies the temptation for policymakers, the impulse to begin telling Americans that we live too well.
Should you trust these people? Some of them? All of them? None of them? In my line of work, we have to listen not only to what's said, but where and how it's said. Context. Let's take another look.
The impulse to begin telling Americans that we live too well, and to recall a 70s phrase that we've got to do more with less.
Well, the easiest thing to dismiss is this call to just keep enjoying our predicament. And we also have to be careful of becoming paralyzed by fear. I mean, really, will that help?
Our ability to live is what is at stake.
And putting all the blame on our leaders, what a great way to weasel out of responsibility ourselves.
Our political and corporate leaders have consistently ignored the overwhelming scientific evidence.
And hope, you'll recall from your courtship, is one of the most important aspects of any relationship. Love, true love, asks you to live up to your potential rather than telling you all the things you cannot be. In all this doom and gloom, you're tempted to forget what the relationship has given you and what it continues to give you.
I don't even know why I'm talking about this, because it's too late. We are dead meat.
Now there's someone with a clear opinion. But is it really that simple? Look at the achievements that literally surround him. There's so much we've built, so much beauty we've created thanks to fossil fuels. This relationship has shaped who we are, and we are a lot more than dead meat. We have invested a lot in this relationship. This is not the time to bring in the divorce lawyers.
The basic reasons for these divorces preceded the marriages. Why did this charming couple wind up in court? Why did it have to happen this way for them?
How can they break the vicious circle and rediscover the affection and respect they once felt for each other?
I was a fool. You know, after I cooled off last night, I found I'd been hanging on to a lot of ideas I don't really believe in anymore.
The key thing now is since we know that this industrial age has created that's okay. Because maybe we didn't know any better, but now we know. And now let us get our act together and do everything that we can to roll it back.
Now that's wise advice. Before we can move forward, we need to forgive ourselves for the mistakes we made in the past. In other words, don't replay old movies.
Ken, we've got a chance to be happy. Let's not throw it away.
Once we have forgiven each other and all of those who have supported us in this endeavor, you have to remember how you began. Recapture the passion. You started all this with an open mind. Electric cars, solar power, wind power, all of this has existed for a long time. Listen to your old friend Thomas Edison.
I'd put my money on the sun and solar energy. What a source of power. I hope we don't have to wait until coal and oil run out before we tackle that.
Think about that. Edison designed a house to run entirely on wind and solar power. The things we learn when we look back and recapture the openness of the minds we once had. Good marriages are about being open to all the possibilities that will support us as a partnership. We have to recognize and be receptive to what others can do to help us and what we can do to help ourselves. Before we took up heating a whole house in order to avoid the trouble of putting on a sweater, we may have looked a little frumpy, but we were cozy. We do know how to change. We've done it before and we're doing it now. But it's so easy to fall back into old patterns, to make the same failed and unrealistic promises over and over to each other.
Look, darling, hasn't this gone a little too far?
It certainly has.
But you can't expect me to be any different from what I am.
Don't you expect to change, even a little? After all, I've been giving up everything in the world for you.
Everything? Look, we've come a long way since the 1970s. Now, saving our energy has become easier than ever before. We can save energy, we can save money, and we can stay comfortable. You shouldn't give up on seeking out advice, but advice from people who are seasoned, who have been through all kinds of relationships, who really know what it's like when things are rough.
Okay, so here's my energy policy. We can do limited offshore drilling with strict environmental oversight while creating tax incentives to get Detroit making hybrid and electric cars.
Out of the mouths of babes, not to mention hunks.
There's new opportunities, new jobs, new revenues that are out there. We have seen in California so many companies that have been created that work just on things that have to do with a clean environment. People talk about it now. Now that's incredible.
When you rethink the relationship and recommit to it, all sorts of possibilities open up for the relationship to flourish, for prosperity to take root in places it had never been before. And hunks aren't the only ones noticing this trend. Even the people who have kept you supplied with fossil fuels are changing their tune.
I'm T. Boone Pickens. I've been an oil man my whole life, but this is one emergency we can't drill our way out of.
He's not telling you to run away from your past. He's asking you to let others support the relationship as it evolves into something new. Remember all the resources we have to make this relationship a long-lasting and a healthy one. As that great marriage expert Friedrich Nietzsche said, it is not a lack of love, but a lack of friendship that makes unhappy marriages.
How does a person get to be popular with lots of people and have a few close friends, too?
Okay, we know Nietzsche meant friends with one another. But we have a way of forgetting that we need friends who can relieve our partner of the burden of having to be everything to us, of having to respond to every one of our needs all the time. each partner needs a little time without responsibility, some time to just enjoy life. Our friends are here, and they're ready to help us move forward in this redeemed relationship. And while we've been neglecting them, they've been growing, expanding, learning, becoming more fully realized. Let's go back and meet a few. Remember your old pal, the sun?
Men have at last harnessed the sun with the Bell solar battery.
So this little machine is converting light directly into electric power. We have the technology right now.
He was the geeky friend, pocket protector and all. What a social disaster. He used to come up with any excuse to get away from it when you ran into him at a party. Woo! Has he changed.
The total amount of sunlight that falls on the planet is 20,000 times the amount of fossil fuel power we're using now. So we are awash in sunlight. There's plenty of energy from sunlight. We just haven't begun to learn how to use it properly.
Not only have they come a long way, they've learned to work together, supporting us when they can, stepping aside when they are down. And remember the farm boy who seemed so lost in the past? That same farm boy is leading us into the future.
Wind power today is producing electricity in the 4 to 4.5 cent per kilowatt range, which is very competitive with new coal and new natural gas plants.
Wind turbines themselves, large-scale wind turbines, they're big business. That wasn't the case 15, 20 years ago, but it really is now.
And he's not the only one. The farm turned out some pretty energetic boys and girls.
Fuels, materials, chemicals, these can all come from biomass. Now, PV may be able to supply energy, wind may be able to supply energy, but they're not actually going to have the physical materials. You know, this cloth that my coat's made out of, or the paper that I'm writing, you know, in my notebook here, or whatever. So there's physically, we need these carbon-based materials. I mean, that's what we know today. And biomass is really our renewable source of carbon.
We have so many options about the kinds of things we'll rely on our partner for. When we can relieve our mate of an unnecessary burden, it makes it all that much easier. And there's so much we can relieve him of if we just look more closely at our actual needs.
The average American commuter drives maybe 20, 25 miles per day. If you have a battery that can get you all electric for that entire time, every night you go home and you plug in your car and you leave the next morning with a full tank of electricity. You don't ever have to go to the gas station.
But of course that electricity has to come from somewhere. Our friends, solar, wind, and biofuels are doing their best, but we also have lifelong friends who are changing too. Remember coal? You know, the one who was always dirty, but never embarrassed about it and always willing to lend a hand and make things happen. Well, let's check in and see what happened to him.
If you think you're going to continue to use coal in this way, where you dump mercury and sulfur and carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, this is the energy of the past. But if you will accept that we can produce clean and green energy by sequestering the carbon dioxide, removing the mercury and sulfur, you're looking at the energy of the future.
But coal isn't the only helpful and willing character stuck with a bad reputation. We all remember the real troublemaker.
Nuclear power creates waste, which is the spent fuel. Coal-burning plants create waste, which, among other things, is the carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere. The pollution coming out of the nuclear power plants goes into a very localized place. The waste from the coal plants goes out into everybody's atmosphere, affecting everybody's climate.
I think the problems of nuclear are very manageable. I mean, they're difficult, there are real risks. It isn't that it's cheap and easy, but they're manageable. The consequences of climate change and the conflict over energy, on the other hand, are so large that it's a civilizational crisis.
No one says this is going to be easy, but marriage makes hard work worthwhile. You recommit and you make tough choices. But remember the good times you've had. Remember all the things you've done together, what you've been together, what you could be together. It wasn't the things you owned that made it so great. It was the way you worked together. It was beautiful and hopeful once, and it can be beautiful and hopeful again. It's time to reinvigorate, re-energize, reignite. It's time to renew those vows, drawing together all that you've learned along the way. But you have to ask your friends for their support so you can relieve the burden you've placed on your partner. You both overpromised unrealistically, and in the end, you couldn't deliver. Your partner is nearly exhausted. He's on his way to being burned out. He deserves a break. The love affair between fossil fuels and the American public will continue. But it's going to take all of us, old friends and new, to imagine a new relationship and sustain it with the riches of responsibility and resilience. You can rewrite your vows, and this time you can include your friends. This is about so much more than the two of you. The way you live with each other affects the whole world. The decades of taking fossil fuels for granted are over. You'll always value the contributions they made to your life. But the era of forsaking all others is ending, and the era of welcoming every contributor into the fold has begun. You can no longer escape the hidden costs of this relationship. Sure, being carefree and irresponsible was fun, but you'll both feel a lot better when you accept maturity. There's no need for blame or regret. You created your problems together, and together you can fix them. Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.